Hey, how's it going? And today I'm going to show you how to create a light timer, a timed light. Basically, you can think of it as just an off-on light that goes off after a certain amount of time. To get started on this, we're just going to go into Unreal Engine for Fortnite. I was working on this project already. I'm just going to start it from scratch. I'm going to go new, open project, go to Island Templates. We're going to just do it as a simple project. We don't need revision control on. I'll just call this light, and we'll go create, and it just takes a minute to do its thing. And there we go, we have this kind of nice contemporary setup here. Do we have a spawner in here? We do. We have two of them. We only need one, so I'm just going to delete one of them, so we just have one. Okay, now a couple things here. We just need 3 devices for this. I want this to have an environment that's kind of contradictory to this little loungy area, but what we're going to do is we're going to search for Dusty. Oops, I gotta go on the, make sure you're on all, the highest folder, Depot, Dusty Depot, and we just scroll down here and we'll find it right there, and we're going to just drag this onto the scene. It's kind of coming in behind us. We go this way. Make sure my spawner's not too much in the way here. Let's just put it right there. And I can see its orientation there, so we can just put it like that. And there we go. And if I turn around, I'm in the Dusty Depot. And like I've said before, this is a tremendous asset. I can bump up my camera speed a little bit here. I notice this control doesn't always drag. You can turn your scroll wheel to go faster. Okay, so we're at this wall, and there I'm just hitting my scroll wheel. And we're just going to search for a button and drag that onto the scene, and then rotate it 180 degrees. And then let's just kind of make sure that it's flush with the wall. Hitting my right mouse button to look down, and it appears to be. Maybe that's a little too low to the ground, so I'll hit the space bar and just drag it up a little bit more. I think right about there should be fine. So that is our button. We need 2 more things, and I'm going to search for a timer, and we're going to drag that onto the scene, and it's its own little thing. This is a visible timer, but we don't really want it to be visible. It's actually putting on its own light. And then we're going to search for a customizable, customizable. I see it right here. I'm going to drag that onto the scene, and I'm just going to raise it up a little bit here. This comes in as default as a point light, which actually is one of the more expensive lights in the system. And just to make things more interesting, we can, in its details panel, we can set the color to something more interesting, like a red. Maybe make it a little more menacing. It's kind of orange, and there's somewhere in there. And then we want it off initially, so we'll turn it off, so because we're going to be turning it on. So I just wanted to make a couple points about some things here. We've got 3 devices. We have a light, we've got a button, and then we've got a timer. We really don't need this or want this to be visible, so we're going to try to minimize its visibility. And the button, if you think about it, these three devices communicate by way of something called direct event binding, which in every one of its panels, details panels, is known or kind of as user options or functions. But basically we can bind things. But what's interesting about this is that, and this is kind of a concept out of Unreal Engine itself, is that the receiving device sets the stage, and direct event binding is the default mode. So by default, this is the way Unreal Editor for Fortnite is set up for devices to communicate. There's also a channel method, but there's only so many channels that you can put in your system. There's no channel limit with direct event binding, and it's kind of the way it's set up for the devices to communicate. But the receiving device sets the stage. So if we think about that, this button is a sending device. It's going to be sending, so there's nothing down here under its functions that we need to do because it's the sending device. So The timer, though, is going to be on the receiving side of a message. We need the button to do three things, really. We need the button to send a message to the light to turn it on, and that's actually two messages. And then we need the button to send a message to the timer to start the timer. And then we need actually the timer to send a message to the light. The button's going to be a sender, and the timer's going to be a sender. The light's going to be on the receiving side of three messages and of three bindings, and the timer's going to be on the receiving side of one message, is to basically start. So that's where we're going to start, is we're going to start with the timer, with it selected, and we'll just kind of run through the details panel here real quick. So under duration, you could set this to 5,000 seconds if you wanted. So the player comes into this room, and turns on the light, and you could have it on however long you want. So this could actually be part of a game that the light's only going to be on for a certain amount of time. But because this is just an experiment, we're just going to type in 10 seconds. We don't want it to start at the game start. We don't want anybody to interact with it, so that's going to be a no. Anyone can interact with it. Everyone applies to them. Success on timer in is yes. When the timer gets in, we want that to be successful. Completion behavior is important. When the timer's done timing, we want it to reset itself so that we can do it again. Here, I don't want the timer to be visible at all, so I'm trying to hide it. So I'm going to put the alpha to 0. Hopefully that will hide it. And the timing can be in minutes and seconds. That doesn't really matter. Oh, show on HUD. No, we don't want it to show on HUD. And let's see what else we have down here. There should be something about hidden here. I thought there was an option for hiding it. Why am I missing that? Oh, visible during gameplay, hidden. So just to kind of review all those. So we set the time to 10. No one can interact with it. It applies to anybody and everybody. Success on timer in, yes. Completion behavior is reset. Visible is hidden. Set the alpha to 0 just to make sure nobody sees it. We don't want it to show on the HUD. That's the setting, one of the settings I was missing. So we're not going to see this timer at all, even though we see it here. And then that's pretty much it. And then we want it to start. Now remember, it's on the receiving side of the button, so we have to set it here. And so we're going to go to button, and this is going to be on interact. So when we press E on the button, the timer is going to start. And that's all the settings that we need to do here. So we can hit save just to be on the safe side. Now we can click on the light in the scene. I can clear my thing here, make sure we're on the light. Now this light is going to be on the receiving side. We've already turned it off the initial state. We set the color to red. It's a point light. We could make it a spotlight, which is less expensive. We could make it actually flicker and stuff if we wanted to. That might be fun. Now, it's like I said, it's going to be on the receiving side of three messages. So the first two messages is going to be for the button to turn it on. So we're going to go here and select the button. And this is going to be on interact for the button to enable it. And then it has to be enabled before we can turn it on. And then we're going to click the button again and on interact. And this is to turn it on. And interestingly, if you think about this, is really interesting. So these are direct event bindings here. You can't really give it contradictory things to do. So in a sense, it's a one-shot, one-trick pony. It's going to send out one pulse. So you can't tell it to turn on and turn off at the same time. You can't tell it to toggle at the same time because those are contradictory things. So it can only do things that make sense. It can't do contradictory things. So just be aware of that. It can only really do one thing. Now with the message from the timer, we want the timer to reset it at the end of time. You could either reset it or just turn it off. So either one would work, but let's just go ahead and turn the light off. So we're going to pick here, come down to the bottom and pick the timer. And then it's going to be on success because that's what we told the timer to do, is broadcast success when it's done. And believe it or not, that's everything. So if I can go ahead and hit save, and then of course this launch session. I'm not going to just sit here and ramble on, so I'll come back as soon as the session is done loading. Okay, this session appears connected finally. That took about 2 or 3 minutes. And if I come down here on the Fortnite, it says leave match to join edit session, and that's a big yes. So now we're waiting again some more. What's the latest news? A rainbow royale, okay. Whoa. I'm trying to get my mind around this music. You know, it has a definite epic quality to it. Okay, so here we are. Now we're in edit mode right now. We're not in the play game mode. So we hit escape and just go start game. And let's see if this works. So we're gonna mosey on up here. There's our light switch. And what should happen is when I press E, it should turn on the light for 10 seconds. And then it should go off. And there it is, there's our light. Let's see if it goes off after 10 seconds. And it does. So we come back over to it, we hit E, it goes back on. So this could be the basis of a game. You've got so much time in this area to do something, and you can make it where you can actually see the timer and stress everybody out. You know, they only got a certain amount of time in the light to do what they need to do. And so this just has a ton of functionality. So anyway, I hope you found this helpful. Take care, have a great day, and I'll talk to you probably tomorrow.